Shut up and sit down.
Greetings, fellow Earth travelers. Oblix here, and today we're going to take a look at the Quantum Entangloporter. So guys, I'm here in my creative test world where we're going to take a look at this Entangloporter. Now, I've been getting a lot of requests on my channel to do some more Mekanism tutorials, and one of the things I get asked the most about is the Quantum Entangloporter. So I want to show you guys this give you an opportunity to see how this guy works. Now, its purpose in life is to transport items, liquids, gases, heat, and power wirelessly from one point to another point. So this can be, across large gaps of space, across small gaps of space like this one here, even across dimensions. It doesn't matter. Now, to transport anything, you're going to have to set a frequency. Now, I'm using the bits and bobs frequency. These are creatable by you by typing them here in the set box right here in the middle. Anything you put, any words you put are going to show up as a frequency when you click that little checkbox. To get rid of a frequency, simply click on delete. To change frequencies, click on any frequency that's already defined up here in the box and click on set, and you will see that frequency listed here, as well as its security setting. These networks are all public, meaning anyone on the server you're playing with can see items in this network. Any resource that's inside this network. You can also make private networks. You can do anything you want. So if we do Oblix's secret stash, well, we can't do the whole thing, but we can get Oblix's secret. There we go. Now I can switch this over to that frequency, and you notice it is private. Now these only inside this frequency, I'm the only one that can see the stuff. Nobody else on the server can. We're going to go ahead and switch back over to the public one for now. I'm the only one on the server, so it shouldn't be a big deal. And the way these guys work, if you just take items and shove them into it, and you see the little marching ants of the redstone flying across into the Entangloporter, they're going to come out on the other side and be available in a chest over here. Could be super handy for you if you're mining, for example. You leave one end at your base connected to your storage. Take one with you, plop it down. You can dump items into it and get them out of your inventory, and then go on about your mining business. Also, another way to consider using these guys, especially for items, is sharing with your friends. Say you're at your base and he's at his base, and he says, "Hey, do you have any redstone?" You say, "Sure." Set your Entangloporter to public frequency bits and bobs, and I'll dump some in a chest. You dump them in, he's going to get them on the other side. Now, obviously, faster input cables, if you switch out these logistical transporters, these basic ones, for higher tier cables, will transport the items faster. Now, to show you one last little trick is if you're on another network, so I've switched frequency to another network, and you dump the items in, you're going to see they're going to hit inside this Entangloporter, but of course they're not going to come out because they don't have another Entangloporter set on that network right now. So this is where you could tell your friend, "Hey, I've loaded up 64 redstone." He's in need of redstone, and you say, "Hey, I've loaded up 64 redstone. It's on in the Entangloporter on another network. Just click on another network, and you can have it." So if he goes to his Entangloporter, which is set on the Bits and Bobs network, and he just switches over to another network briefly, he's going to get all that redstone goodness out. And then once he's got it all, he can just switch back to his normal network like that. Super easy. Great way to share items, as well as a great way for you to transport items around, large distances. So it can do items. It can also do fluids. I've just got a creative power source here, feeding into a Mekanism pump, which is sucking water out of this infinite source and dumping it into this Entangloporter. Now, the Entangloporter can work on all sides. It doesn't have to just be, I have the left side here and the right side there. It doesn't just have to be that. I've got water here going into the top, and that's fine. Also on the Bits and Bobs network. Notice that we transported items on the Bits and Bobs network, but now we're also transporting fluids over. And I keep saying network because I'm an old school computer guy and network makes more sense to my brain. Within Mekanism, it is frequency. Think of it more like radio channels or radio stations. So I'm on the Bits and Bobs doing water, and this is on the Bits and Bobs doing items, and we can do them at the same time, no problem. So I've got another Entangloporter here set up, also on Bits and Bobs receiving that water. And I can demonstrate that by breaking that ultimate tank and dropping a new one down that's empty, and you'll see the water start to fill up. And eventually, yeah, it will drain this side, and you'll start to see, because I've put on the slow pipes, that pump is just, squirting a little bit of water into this pipe and shooting it across here. And it's already almost full. So it's not slow by any means. It's as slow as these pipes allow it to be. The Entangloporter is significantly faster than the cables that are going into it. You can transmit gases. So I've got a creative deuterium tank here. We're transporting deuterium into the Entangloporter. Guess what? Also on the Bits and Bobs frequency. So we're wirelessly transmitting deuterium over to this side. We can demonstrate that. This tank is full, so I can just break it, pop a brand new empty one down, and we'll see that it starts to fill up with the deuterium from that side over there. So notice we've got items, fluids, and gases all transmitting on the same frequency. And additionally, we can do heat. So I've got a creative energy cube here feeding this resistive heater, which I've got cranked up to 10,000 FE per tick. So it's producing 12 kilokelvin. So that's 12,000 Kelvin, which is being dumped into this Quantum Entangloporter. Again, Bits and Bobs network. Got another one set up on the other side, Bits and Bobs network receiving that heat, which is feeding into this thermal evaporation tower. So you can see its temperature is over 422 kilokelvin right now. That's 423,000 Kelvin. Just to show you the default of these guys, this one has nothing on him. He's just standing here by himself. So the default, for those who haven't used them, is 305 to 6 in this particular biome, but not kilokelvin, just Kelvin. You see it's bouncing between the two, but it's just Kelvin. So 305 Kelvin. But you can see this guy is significantly hotter, in magnitudes hotter. We're up to 432 kilokelvin, 432,000 Kelvin because of wireless heat transmission. And the last thing you can transport is power. I've got a creative energy cube here, and just transferring power into this Quantum Entangloporter, also on the Bits and Bobs network. We're pulling it out on the other side and shoving it into this ultimate energy cube, which happens to be full. So just like the other ones, I'll break it and I'll pop an empty one down, and we can see it's starting to slowly fill up with power. Now the speed is based solely on these basic universal cables. Again, you can upgrade the cables on both sides and have it move much, much faster. But I want to be able to demonstrate the speed, or the filling of it, so the slower cables, just makes that much, much easier. Now we've got so many different things being transferred over the Bits and Bobs network. I wanted to show you don't need individual Entangloporters to receive all those material. So I've got this one also set, this Entangloporter also set on the Bits and Bobs. And we've got gas, water, power, and items. Now, if we break the energy cube and pop a new one down, we'll see that it starts to fill up. If we break the water, pop a new one down, we see it starts to fill up. There we go. And if I break the gas and pop an empty one down, we can see it also starts to fill up, all coming out of one Quantum Entangloporter. We can even do the items. I am going to break that just so the items don't try to go in there. So if I drop this redstone in here, And we get the marching ants going into that Entangloporter. We come over here and we can see that they're marching out over here into this chest. So we're transporting power, water, gas, and items. We could also be transporting heat as well, all at the same time through one Entangloporter. So you don't need to set up a whole ton of them. Now private networks work exactly the same way. I've got this guy set on the private items network. And we notice it's private, so if we come over here we can see private items. And I've got this guy on private items as well. So if we take our super valuable blue orchids and drop them in this chest, you'll see that they wirelessly transport into that Entangloporter and wirelessly come out on the other side. So a super handy way, and again, you're the only one that can see things in the private frequencies. Now we need to talk about configuring the different sides to do what you want to do, and this is where most people make their mistakes, where they get confused. So if we look at this Entangloporter, we want to look at this tab that kind of looks like the side of a dice with the little pips on it. So if we click that, the side config button, you get a bunch of tabs and a bunch of pips here, or buttons that you can choose from. Now by default you're on the item config page and there's no tab for it because you're on that page. Always look to the top to see what page you're on. This icon here is the little drop and it's for fluids. If you click it, notice up here it changes to the fluids config page, and now you get an items tab, but the fluids tab has gone missing. This triangle with the exclamation mark is your gases tab. So you can configure the Entangloporter for how you want it to deal with gases. Then you have an energy tab as your lightning bolt. We're on the energy config page, and you have heat, which is the orange. Switch over and you have heat, and whatever tab you click on, notice it disappears, and whatever one you were on before, like heat, will show up. If I click on fluids is going to disappear, but heat's going to show up. See that? So people tend to get confused on like, where's, I don't see an items tab. It's because you're on it. And it does disappear, and I get that it makes it a little bit confusing. Now these buttons are representations of the different sides of the Entangloporter. So let's pull it out here and take a good look at it. It can accept items or send items from all sides. So there's 6 sides that are available for use. If we click on it and we open it up, you can see you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is a representation of all the sides. So it's based on how you're looking at it. So I'm looking at it square on, I right click it. This is going to be my left side. This is going to be the side facing me. This is my right side, top, bottom, and back. So back is the one that's kind of off to the side over here. Now you need to tell it, is this Entangloporter accepting items or is it sending items? If it's on the near side where you want to push items into the network. So if we were looking at this example that we were looking at before, this is the sending side, right? So on the sending side, we're going to want it to be inputting on the left, because this is the left side of the Entangloporter. So we want it to input on the left. Now I've broken the one over here so we can set up a new one. And broken extra cable, we can go ahead and fix that real quick. Because it is a Minecraft chest, you do have to tell it, it's a Minecraft chest, not a Mekanism chest. We do have to tell it to output to that chest by pointing our little arrow that way. I have a whole video on this. If you're stuck on how to do this, I've got a whole other tutorial on how to do that. So over here, we want this side to receive the items. So we're going to side config. We're going to look at items, make sure we're on the items tab. And we want it to push those items out on the right hand side to go into this chest over here. So we're going to set this to output. Now, it really doesn't matter what you do with the rest of these. I'm a little bit anal, so I tend to like to go ahead and set them to nothing. And all you got to do is click on them. There's 3 options. There's none, input, or output. We want none. And that's going to let us shoot items out. Now, we do have to, again, give it a frequency. So we want to be on bits and bobs. And you'll see it connects as soon as we give it a frequency. And let's make sure this guy's on bits and bobs. He is. So we've set our output. Now the other thing we have to do is tell it to auto eject. Right now, auto eject is turned off. To do that, you hit this, what looks to be like a little padlock. Just click it and it'll change to auto eject on. That tells it whenever you get items, go ahead and push those items out. So if we come over here, and I don't think we have any redstone there, I think we've sent it away. Let's go ahead and we'll get some polished granite, because that's something everybody wants. So we're going to pop some of that in here. We see it marching ants across into the Entangloporter. And we see it still going over there, because this was the last priority of this. And again, we can talk about how to do this in another video, how to make it go to the, make items go to various Entangloporters. That gets into this transporter configuration. Right now, I'm just going to move this guy off of this network to make our lives easier, because that's a fairly lengthy conversation. Now you can see that polished granite marching ants out, so we did set up our Entangloporter correctly to receive those items. And it's the same with all the other Entangloporters, but we're going to change the tab we're working on. So this particular one is fluid, so we need to go to side config, and we need to look at, we're on items, so we need to look at fluids. And we can see that the top is an input. So, and I didn't change the ones here. I would normally do that. But the top is set to an input, and the auto eject doesn't matter on the receiving side. Now, over here on the side that's accepting, we want to go to fluids again. Remember, look at your tabs. Now we're on fluids. We can see we're outputting on the right hand side, and auto eject is turned on. Now if we moved this cable to, say, the top and did something like this, and let's go ahead and break it so we can see it fill up. Let's actually drain that pipe, even pop a brand new one down. Totally empty. Let's clean out so I have free hand. Now if we look at this Entangloporter and we go to fluids, we notice the top is defaulted to input. So we're going to have to switch that to be an output. And now you can see it pumping the fluids out. Same thing with gases. We just want to make sure we're on the gases tab. You know, we're inputting pretty much everywhere but the face that's facing us right here. We're outputting. Go to the gases tab on the right hand side. So heat is the one weird thing we need to look at. All sides of heat, now we got to click on the heat tab, are input sides. If you click on them, you get the none option, but you do not get the blue option, which is output. It doesn't exist. And it says can't eject. This button does not work on heat. Basically, all heat is input and output. So even though it just says input, it's also an output. So it's just looking at the source. So the heat's coming in here, and you'll notice over here, you know, as long as it's set to something, we've got to click on the heat tab. As long as it's set to not none is the only thing it can't be set to, because you notice you set it to none, it breaks the connection. As long as it's set to input, it will push the heat out, as is evidenced by the fact that we're already up to 639,000 kilokelvin. You know, that's coming through the network. Power is just like all the other ones minus heat. Heat's the only weird one. Power works like everybody else. You have an input, you have an output. So we're inputting on the left-hand side, which is right there. We're outputting, if we look at power tab, on the right-hand side right here. No problemo. So that should give you a good idea of how your Quantum Entangloporter, good grief, interface works. If you have questions, drop them down in the down yonder. I'll do my best to answer them. The only thing we really didn't cover is upgrades. You can put, if your pack allows it, not all packs do, you can put an anchor which will allow it to work. It basically chunk loads it, so that if you're in the overworld and you have it in the nether, say piping lava to back to your overworld base, when you leave the nether, it would unload the device. So the anchor upgrade allows it to continue working even when you're not there. Again, a lot of packs don't allow anchors, but if your pack does, then it is something you can use. And then again, it does store some power, as we mentioned. So if we look at FE, it is currently, now this is not per Entangloporter, this is per the entire frequency. So any Entangloporter in this frequency has a capacity right now of 51.2 million FE, and we're stored 21.96 million FE, just because we have a creative energy cube providing power into the frequency as we speak. So it is slowly filling up the battery reserves of this frequency with power. So if we switch over to the blah blah network, I have no power inputting on that network, so you can see it's not storing any power at all. None of these Entangloporters are set to that network except this one now, because I just set it to it. It will slowly, as you see, there it is, it's starting to store some power. It's up to 1.02. Very, very slowly, because the transfer rate of these cables and the cube itself. So it is based on the frequency. So say your friend, his base runs out of power and you're making an excess of power, you can drop an Entangloporter down, have him drop one down, put them on the same network, and you can give him some of your power, either wirelessly or through the battery within the Entangloporter. So I think that's going to do it for Quantum Entangloporters in the Mekanism mod. I sure do appreciate you guys coming to hang out with me as always. And until next time, get out there, make some noise. See ya.